Alright guys, I'm back with another unboxing. I have two boxes here, or two packages rather here, that I'm going to be unboxing. So let's take a look and see what we got. Alright, so right here in this first package we have the Festool angle stop. So let's take a look at that and see what it looks like. Alright, so we got some instruction sheet here, and it's got this kind of accordion style packaging, you can see. Get that out of the way. And that is all that comes with this particular package. So this here is the new Festool angle stop. Alright, so this Festool angle stop is essentially this TSO angle square or guide rail square, and also this bench dog guide rail square. This is Festool's version of the same tool. Obviously this looks a little bit different because it has some special features which we're going to go through. Alright, so I'm going to set these aside. I brought these up so you understand exactly what this does. It is a right angle rail guide. So let's grab one of my Festool rails and let's attach it. So I'm going to use this short rail. This is the FS 800. So, alright. Now this is my first time using this, so I'm going to have to kind of figure out how it actually attaches to the rail. Now see, we've got a T-nut here. And I can see here, this is the groove where you're going to put a clamp, if you're going to put a clamp on. So let me grab one of those Festool clamps, which I have here. Alright, so I'm imagining, and here's a clamp as well to grab onto the rail right here. Alright, let's see if we can just figure this out without any kind of direction. I haven't looked at it yet. Let's see what we got. Okay, so it looks like there's a channel here on the top. And you've got to lift up this bracket and it slides back like that. And then you put the clamp down onto the T-track and clamp the device. Now you've got your right angle square. So referencing off of this portion right here on the bottom, as you can see, it's moving because there's a knob here to tighten it up. So I put it on 0 and I've tightened it up. I butt it up against my work and I get my 90-degree cut there. Retracts all those on and just make the cut. Okay. Now, the unique feature to this particular rail, so let's set up the other ones next to it. Oh, so using a clamp, the way you use that, you actually will take the rail like this, and you'll slide the clamp in from the top and all the way back into that slot, and then I can actually put it up against the work and clamp it on the bottom here to get it fastened. So there's that. Let's set this to the side for now. Let's grab the DeWalt rail and we're going to put the bench dog's angle bracket on here. Snug that up. And then finally, we're going to use the TSO. Alright, so we've got three different angle guide rail angle squares. lined up here. So you say, why have all of them? Well, obviously the bench dogs for the DeWalt is only for that. The TSO can work on both the Makita and also on the Festool. The reason why I purchased this Festool device is because these are great. I fully feel like they are capable of accurate cut. This particular piece of machinery is capable of a few tricks. Now, one of them being, if you look on the top here, you've got angles. It bevels from 60 degrees both to the right and to the left. So, not only can you get a 90-degree cut, but if I turn this knob, I can actually shift the rail and go all the way to a 60-degree cut right here. I can get 60 degrees, which is something that these devices back here are not able to do. Now, something that I see here, as I turn that angle, this little T-nut came out of the channel. So I have to see how this actually works when you're actually setting up the device. But let's play with it a little bit more and see how that works out. So as I turn this back around here, I'm lining this up so that it'll slide in right there. And that gives me the ability. So when I go all the way to 60, that T-nut actually comes out. If you look at that, you see that when I go over to 60. So in order to get it to go back in, I slide it up, butt it up. I can go to 45 and it stays in that chamber. I can go to 30, it's there. Obviously 22.5, that's a 15-degree, 0. And there are indents here on the edge of the piece. So it kind of clicks in. So I can go all the way up to 60 in the opposite direction, which if I butted this up like this and go all the way over here, so I can make a cut going this way. Or I guess if I put it on this side of the work and I butt it up, I would be cutting back that way. So obviously that's not how I would do it. I would put it like this. But you see, I've got 60, 45-degree angle, 30-degree angle. And let me just grab the saw so you can get the video. So here I'm cutting. This right here is a 30-degree angle off that way. I can take the saw, I can turn it, I can do a 15. Or let me go back to that right there is a 22.5, a 15, and right there is my 90. Wrap it back around to 15, 22.5, 30, 45, and finally, when you go into 60 in this other direction, it's pushing this this nut out. When I go 60 all the way to my left. But you can pull that nut out and it'll go all the way to 60, and you can tighten it down and you'll still get that 60 cut. So to put it back, you start to turn the rail back this way and you slide it in there and it just kind of slides back in the channel. You go to 0, snug it up. There's an indent, you can hear it, and you butt it up against the work. Now say you want to clamp this in a different way, you can take a clamp like this and put it here and clamp up your work on this side here. So multiple ways to fasten it. You can go underneath the rail as I showed you before, or you can bring the actual clamp around to the side and put it on. There's a couple other features that this particular device supports, and that is, if you look here on the top, there are some dogs here, and they actually pop out. Oh, they slide. The dogs actually slide out. So you slide the dogs out, and on the bottom here, they can actually slide in, and you can snug them up on the bottom. They work like rail dogs. I can tighten them up here. And what these will do is, if I have a beveled area that I'm trying to reference, and this ledge under here is too, let's say too narrow, these dogs give me the ability to butt up against the work and give me a point of reference. So, and that's just built into the device here, having these, you know, that's pretty nice, nifty onboard storage, because I can take them off. So if I lose them, I just slide them back in. There's some nice little plastic clamps here that actually open up to receive these dogs so that they stay in place. So again, what you've actually combined here is like a, you know, protractor function with a conventional guide rail square, which is pretty cool. I mean, because looking at this, you don't really look at it because of the rounded edges and consider it to be the same as this particular device here, but the reference point here gives us that same straight edge, and the rounded area obviously introduces the feature of being able to angle the rail from 60 degrees to the left to 60 degrees to the right. So this particular device has a few more tricks up its sleeve. So not only can you do a cross cut, and obviously you can put whatever size rail you want to put on here. I know Festool goes up to I want to say 197-inch rail. Now let's just see if this will actually work on my Makita rail as well, because I already own the 118-inch rail for Makita. Let's see if this actually will work. It may not, because of the lip that is on the Makita rail. And it will not. There's actually a notch here on the cast, if this is, I don't know if this is cast iron or cast aluminum, probably aluminum, but there's a notch here, and this is made to not be compatible with the Makita. So this is a Festool only product. Even though the saws can run on each other's rail, there are some caveats, being that I know the channel sizes here are different. So if you was trying to run a saw on both rails, you would actually have to adjust the actual cams on the bottom to be able to suit whichever rail. You can't just set it and forget it like you could do if you're going to do all Festool or all Makita. So again, this is a Festool only device. You cannot buy this and use it with Makita rail. So even if you wanted to use, say, a Makita saw, you would have to go out and purchase a Festool rail to use this Festool angle stop. So proprietary thing, but I have to be honest, this is a pretty cool piece of kit here. And let's go ahead and continue to see what this particular setup can do. So we've got the cross cut, we've got angles. Now let's go over here and look at this other package and see what else we have to unbox. So when I got both of these packages in-house today, and they actually, there is part 1 and part 2, same order. And let's see what we got here. So first and foremost, this is the Festool FSWA VL is what it's labeled as here. Let's give it an open. Trying not to cut myself here. So we have another set of directions, and as you can see, these directions actually show this new Festool angle guide. And what we have in the box, we have a small Allen wrench with 2 different sizes on each end. And we kind of got the same accordion style packaging. And inside it we have this aluminum fence rail type of device. This is a lot more stout than what I actually envisioned. Okay, so basically if you look underneath this device, there are 2 channels, and we have you use the smaller end of this Allen key, and you unloosen, or you loosen, not unloosen, you loosen these brackets and you slide them out. And we're going to take this and put it on like this. Butt those up. So I'm buttoning these up pretty good to make sure they're connected well. Alright, so now that we have this connected, and as you see, I have this little lip here. And what that gives me the ability to do is it kind of hooks on top of the actual tabletop here, right? And I can slide this up and down my workpiece. If you notice down here on the bottom, there's actually a tensioning knob, so I can actually tighten that to actually hold right where I want it. Now let's put the rail back on. Alright, once you put the rail on, you see this is kind of a little bit of finagling here. You got to remember to lift this clamp up to slide it through. And then you get it to the back, you clamp it down. Now, what this gives me the ability to do is to butt up against my work like this. And with the use of this knob, I can loosen this here, and I can actually slide this to whatever size I want to cut. So say I want to cut 710 mils, right? I butt that up. I snug this up over here on the end. And if I need to clamp it, obviously, I can come here. Well, it doesn't look like that clamps there, but I can clamp it on the front side, and it appears that I would be able to clamp it over here on this side. But basically, what this is giving me the ability to do is actually measure my cut and cut the same. I'm looking for my metric tape measure so I can kind of see how accurate this is. Anyways, I don't know where my metric tape measure is, as usual. I could never find my stuff. But anyways, when I'm looking at this, here, I'll use this. So from the cut edge, this is measuring in at about 70 centimeters, right? And this is basically stating this is about 710 mils is what I'm thinking this is. But regardless of the unit of measure here, whatever size piece you want to get between this cut edge and this area here, you can do repeatable cuts by butting up to the edge of your work like this, making your cut, and then you can move down the workpiece and do the same thing, and you'll get the exact same size piece with a 90-degree with the combination of having a 90-degree reference and then also having a essentially like a parallel guide. So essentially this hooking on the side of the work is ensuring that you have one point of contact, which is this face, and this is your second point of contact. And as you pull the tension to the right and push it up towards the work, you're actually going to get a known variable between here and here. And as you can see, there's actually a ruler here, and it's actually an etched ruler. It's not just painted on. There's an etching for the actual markings here. Now the numbers don't appear to feel etched, but the actual gradient here is etched in. So you have from the tip of the rail, the cutting surface, all the way over here. This is how large of a piece that you can actually cut off, and you can do that repeatedly. So what this setup is actually doing is it is providing the functionality of a device like this. It is adding the protractor capabilities, but finally what it is attempting to do, and it's to be determined how successful, but it is also operating as a parallel guide in this one setup. I won't say one device because it's two devices, really three if you consider the actual track connected together. So what I was able to do with the TSO was I would hook the guide rail square to the actual rail, and then if I wanted a particular depth of cut, I would put this TSO parallel guide, and I would actually use two of them, as you can see here, and I would take the depth stop or the dimension that I want, right? And obviously I would snug this down, and then let me see if I can grab my other one. Right, so I grab the other side of the parallel guide and I slide this in, tighten it up, and obviously I have to tighten these. I haven't tightened these yet, so just take that into account. But basically, when I get my even point on each side, I would tighten that down, and this area here is going to reference off of the surface of the work as I am here, and it's giving me a specific size cut from the cutoff edge to the edge of the parallel guide, which I'm getting 2 points of reference. This setup with the Festool angle guide and also with this extension arm gives you the ability to do that, but with only one parallel guide essentially, because it's actually referencing off of the one side of the workpiece, creating a 90-degree cut from that cut piece, and then it will be that 90-degree cut, as long as this side is, you know, parallel to this cutoff spot, then you're also going to have a 90-degree cut going across your work on this side. It's going to be parallel to this side based upon the build of this particular device. So it's a pretty it's a simple device, but it's providing a complex function, because whereas TSO has solved this problem with 2 parallel guides and the guide rail square, Festool has attempted to combine a pseudo parallel guide using 1 parallel and an angle stop and a guide rail square, but then also it's added the functionality that if you butt this up and say you want to get, you know, a 30-degree cut, and you wanted all your pieces to have a 30-degree cut, but also to have a certain distance from here to the cut edge, you can do that repeatedly. You can't do that easily with the parallel guide, unless of course you were, well, you honestly, I can't see how you could, because even though you can change the actual dimensions of the parallel guide and make one wider and the other one narrower to actually get kind of an angled cut, these would not be flush up against the workpiece, and this 90-degree angle would actually prevent you from being able to get this angle like this, because you're butted up against this part of the work and you're cutting back this way. Let me see if I have a piece of scrap to try this out. This is actually pretty cool. This is an interesting piece of kit. So what I'll do right now, this is just an unboxing and overview. I'm gonna come back, I'm actually gonna use this and really kind of put it through its paces and do a comparison between this device and the parallel guide, because I think this is a really cool piece of kit. It's not cheap. You know, this portion here, I want to say, is $175, and then this extension is $90. And it looks like, to me, if you wanted to, I think you could buy 2 of these extensions and actually go out longer if you wanted to, like if you wanted a longer piece, because it's just T-track on the bottom. Now the actual reference ruler would not correlate, but in theory you could do it. And remember, I can put whatever size rail that I want to attach to this actual angle guide rail. And I can't say this is a new idea, because I do believe there's someone on YouTube that actually did a video when they were actually comparing the GRS-PE guide rail square with, I think, the Bench Dogs, and then I think maybe a couple other brands, one of those being Woodpecker. And I believe Woodpecker's guide rail square actually does have the functionality of this protractor. So I don't think this is actually a new idea, but this is a new idea, you know, for the Festool brand. They actually do have a Festool branded product that looks very much like this GRS 16PE by TSO, but it's branded Festool. I think TSO actually makes it for Festool. So they've actually combined this technology with the technology from what Woodpeckers is doing with the protractor function, and then combine that with the idea of turning it into a guide rail system as well, so that you can actually just use this one piece to cut pieces of, you know, you can cross cut pieces of the exact same width with this setup. It's pretty cool, because I mean, just using it, let's go back, let's flip this around to 0, just here, and then I don't have my metric tape measures here somewhere. I'm going to get a couple more metric tape measures because I keep losing the one that I have. But if I measure this here in inches, to this marker, we're at 44 inches. So this piece would be 44 inches wide from the cut. So I'm getting from 44 inches, let's go ahead and adjust this. And that slid out, that stop actually can just slide right out the end. And this is why I said you could probably put on an extension on this. Now let me see how this goes on. So this goes into this T-track. Now what I'm going to do is move the parallel guide, move this Makita setup out of the way. And what I want to try to see is what is the narrowest piece I can cut with this particular setup. So we had it at 44 inches measured out from here to the longer point, because as you can see, this area is starting to stick out. So let's move it over. And it appears, okay, the bars, the actual bars that attach the two pieces provides a stop. So this is as narrow of a piece as you can get because of the bars underneath. Now when I measure this, you're looking at a 21 and 13/16. That's what you have. You have 21 and 13/16 up to 44. So that's the types of depths that you can get with this. So say if you wanted a piece that was going to be 24 inches wide, you would just set this for 24, right? This tape measure doesn't lock very well. Not the best tape measure, but say I wanted this for 24 inches. What I would do is loosen this. First, I would get a tape measure that actually stays open, because this one's not. Let's prop this up. That ain't gonna work either. Here, let's maybe put some weight on it. Okay, so I want this to be a 24-inch wide piece. I would slide this down to 24, which is about there, and then I would lock this in. And as long as I have room for this area, this part of the device, right? And also, I have, my good reference. The pieces that I cut should be 24 inches going, in width throughout this cut, which I think is pretty cool. Now, some deficits or some drawbacks that I see here so far. If you look on the bottom here, all right, just turning this up on its side, and you see how narrow this is. Well, on this side, this piece is significantly deeper than this reference edge. So I think it's going to give you more of an accurate measurement from your side of your workpiece. However, what it does affect is the ability. So as you see, it doesn't sit like this. You actually have to pull it back to clamp it on here. And because of this reference piece or this stop, you couldn't, you would actually have to have, if you was going to set this whole device on top of a piece of, on top of a tabletop. And let me grab a piece of plywood so you can see what I mean. Like say I take this piece here, and I want to use this setup to get a 24-inch piece. All right, so I take this, and there you see your problem. Look at how far that's sitting up off the table. So I would actually have to set enough pieces underneath my work on the desk to put this up in the air, like that. And then really still I gotta butt it up against the edge. So I'd have to come, my workpiece would actually have to hang off of the table to accommodate this portion down here. So I think that's actually, you know, everything you design is going to have its pros and it's going to have its cons. This right here is somewhat of a limitation, I think. Now it looks like there's 2 grooves here, so I can take this back and put it in. No, it doesn't. Yeah. Oh, yes, I can. Wait a minute. Okay, so this will not fit in the back. So this rail is some kind of off-the-shelf T-track because it has 2 T-track slots on the bottom, but this particular device only fits in the 1 T-track. I guess you could put it on the back like this, but that's not going to be much help because that knob is going to get in the way of your reference point. So this is an off-the-shelf branded T-track that has been repurposed for this purpose with the Festool product, because, you know, it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't make much sense for it to have 2. Well, let me take that back. Let me take that back. The connecting bars run through the same channels to hold this together. So I don't know. I mean, maybe this was manufactured specific for this particular device. It's possible, but the way that they did this angle stop here, it does offer some degree of limitations just in its functionality. You know, because you're actually going to have to put this up off of your table if you were going to use it on your table, or you have to have your piece of work referencing off of the edge of whatever work surface you're working on. So that's just something that I noticed just from looking at it. And that's the one thing about me and products. I tend to find issues. It doesn't matter if it's an electronic, it doesn't matter if it's a tool, whatever. For some reason, I have an eye for design. I don't want to say issues or problems or whatever, but for some reason, no matter what it is, I can find that thing that is just a little bit maybe not well thought out, or an issue where it's kind of like, you know what, this is as far as we could take this product, let's bring it to market, and you just have to work within the limitations of the device. You know, as I said, works perfectly fine as I'm laying this up here, but that edge is not as narrow as a piece of, say, 12 millimeter plywood or 3/4 millimeter plywood, and so as a result, you will have to have something underneath your work to use this on top of your table surface, or your work has to hang off the edge. I don't see, maybe someone else can see something different. There was nothing else in the box or in the package. Now, that being said, I do feel as though this is a very nice piece of kit. I was excited when I saw it presented on YouTube on someone else's channel, and immediately I said I want to get that when it comes out. And I did feel as though it would cost around close to $300, which is what it does cost when you combine everything together. You're running about $300 with tax, so you're talking about 180, somewhere around there, 180, and then add tax. But I think this is a pretty cool piece of kit, and I look forward to using it in my projects. Sometimes I think I'm gonna have issues trying to figure out which way to actually complete a project, because when you have different methods to use, sometimes they both can actually take the same amount of time or similar amount of time. So now it's kind of like paralysis through analysis, because I can use this now, I can use the parallel guide system, very similar. I was just talking about buying another guide rail square, a TSO one, so that I could use it with like different rails. So, and now I have that without actually buying another TSO. I can use this one on this particular setup, and say if I'm using the 800 rail and then I'm using, say, the 55-inch rail, and I want to use, you know, 2 different lengths, but I want to use the right angle guide, I can actually take the TSO guide rail square and I can connect it to this particular rail, and I can make whatever cuts I need to make with this, and then I can come back with this one and make cuts that I need to make with this particular setup. So I like that. You know, when I was cutting out the windows for the dollhouse, I used this one for the shorter lengths and this one for the longer lengths, but I had to keep changing the TSO angle guide rail square and taking it off and putting it on the shorter rail and back and forth, which basically decreased productivity. If I was to do that job again, now what I can do is have both set up, and I do the cuts with one, set it to the side, grab the other one, do the cuts with the other one. I remove the setup process of having to change it each and every time to make cuts. So, you know, multiply that times whatever project that you're doing, because all I have to do is set it up at the very beginning. I put one guide rail square on this rail and the other guide rail square on this rail, and go forth. And, you know, just kind of rambling on, everything always has a caveat, because now that I have this functionality, which is great, it's a good, this is where universal products like the TSO really hit home. Even the bench dogs, because the bench dog makes a rail square that I believe fits on the Festool and also the Makita as well. I have to kind of leave DeWalt out of this equation, not to shun them, but basically because they have a unique rail, it can't really be included in this conversation. As you see, I had this GSO guide rail square on the Makita rail. Now I have it on the Festool rail. I had to make no adjustments at all. This only works on the Festool. So luckily this one is pretty much, I like to use the word ambidextrous, probably not appropriate for this, but it can do both things. It can ride, it can do the Festool, it can do the Makita. This is only Festool. So if I wanted to have this set up and stay all Festool, I would need to get another one of these to put on the other rail, if that was what I wanted to do. But because of products like the TSO, I don't have to do that. I could switch this back and forth. This one is dedicated to the Festool, you know, but it, you know, so anyways, I'm kind of rambling on, but so, you know, this is my unboxing and basic overview of this new Festool FSW angle stop is what I believe it's called. Yeah, FSW angle stop. The new Festool FSW angle stop. Thanks for taking time to watch the video. See you in my next one.